Hello, my name is Jantare and I want you to welcome to Reinvent Your Body series. How to create your best health, stop yo-yo dieting and lose weight for good. Today's my guest is Dr. Richie. He has a master's degree in health and physical education. Also, he finished his PhD in kinesiology and gerontology, and he's the owner of a functional aging institute where he helps mature age people to get fit. Hello, Dr. Richie, and welcome to the show. It's my honor having you here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. I love doing these things.
Amazing. So today we're going to talk about weight loss or gain and about fitness. So I have a question for you. I'm sure there is a lot of people can relate to that. So for example, when you go on holiday, in a week or two, you gain like 5 pounds and then you come back and you need to lose those 5 pounds. And it might gonna take 2 months or sometimes even longer, or if ever. Why is it so easy to gain weight than to lose it? What is happening to our body?
Yeah. Great question. Good foundational question. You know, I think the primary reason it's so easy to gain weight compared to lose it is how easy it is to consume high calorie foods. And vacation is a great example of this, right? We go on vacation and so we tend to indulge ourselves a little bit more, right? We might have that piece of pie or that piece of cake or that chocolate, or we might have a bigger meal than we normally even have, even multiple times a day, right? If you go on a certain vacation, they might feed you breakfast. And I know many resorts in places, it's the all-inclusive, right? Which means alcohol, all you want, which is a big challenge for people because now you're drinking calories. And so I think part of it is just, it's so easy for us to gain weight because we can overconsume very quickly, right? We can put in a couple extra cookies, we can put in a couple extra entrees, we can put in a couple extra treats, and over 1, 2, 3 weeks, all of a sudden we've gained 3 to 5 pounds. And to reverse that process is much more difficult because we can't just all of a sudden eat that much less, right? It's really difficult to restrict our eating, and we can't exercise that much more, right? We can't come back and say, well, now I'm going to exercise 2 hours a day to make up for all that indulging. And so we can gain weight very quickly, but losing weight tends to be a slow, I don't want to say struggle, but it's an effort, right? It takes much more effort to lose a pound of fat than it does to gain a pound of fat, right? In fact, to gain a pound of fat takes very little effort. We eat a little bit too much, and we lay down and take a nap, and our body will store it as fat, right? It's very easy to gain weight, whereas to lose that, in fact, when we look at how our body works metabolically, for the most part, our body wants to hold on, right? And so when we consume extra calories, our body is happy to store it as fat, but it's much more resistant to just let it go and release it and to burn it. Our body does not naturally say, well, let's just get rid of this extra weight. So in nature in general, our bodies tend to be much more geared towards storing and accumulating energy rather than just releasing it. And so it takes much more effort, much more work to lose weight, and very little effort to gain weight.
Yeah, because considering like, even because people trying to adjust, like you're on holiday, you're still going for a swim or you're going for long walks, and they're kind of adjusting to that. Like, so I could afford to have that cookie or piece of cake because I will swim all day long or whatever. But it just not how it works.
Yeah, if people choose to go on physically active holidays, for sure, that can help, right? One of my favorite things to do is to go to the mountains, and we spend hours hiking, right? And so now if you're getting more physically active on your vacation or holiday, you're less likely to gain weight. But unfortunately, many people are not more physically active on their holiday, right? They tend to lay at the beach, or they lay next to the pool, or they relax, or they're going to shows. They're doing things that are not physically active. And on top of that, they're probably eating more and consuming more. And oftentimes there's much more alcohol involved, right? So that's a big, underestimation. We don't think about how much alcohol adds to the caloric total,
Yeah.
right? We don't even think, even if I have 3 or 4 drinks, we don't think of that as, oh, I just had 2 or 3 fast food hamburgers, right? I mean, we just don't equate it the same, right? And so we can quickly pile on the calories on vacation or holiday, or even a time like now, right, where we're sheltering in place, we're staying at home, and it can be very easy for us to, well, I don't have to be up for work tomorrow, so I'll have an extra glass of wine or an extra something, and pretty soon we come out of quarantine 5 pounds heavier than when we started.
It is, because people, like, obviously they start to eat because they're bored, or they eating their emotions away, or they're stressed. They're those emotional eaters.
Yes.
As well, and that's dangerous as well, because you just kind of gain weight instantly.
Yes, for sure.
Ending, and it's hard when you now, especially now, you stay at home and you can't go exercise, or, well, you can make an effort. You can't stop eating actually, and you can start exercising at home, but it's an effort to do, and whereas other people chose not to.
Yeah.
I know you working with mature age people, helping them to stay fit. How is that? Why did you choose that kind of niche, working with older people than the younger ones?
Yeah, that's a great question. I started out working with college athletes, so university athletes, and I didn't enjoy that very much. It just wasn't that satisfying. And so when I went to pursue my master's degree and PhD, I started training mostly retirees. So people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, people who are retired or semi-retired. And I just enjoyed it a lot more. They were much more receptive to the fitness training that I offered. They were much more, I would say, lifestyle results focused, right? They wanted to know, how can I do something that will help me be a better golfer or hiker, or be more active, or do things with my family, which was much more attainable for me, right? I can give you the fitness plan to get you where you want to go. And so then that sort of led to my PhD research and the emphasis in gerontology, the study on aging. I really wanted to develop programs for people over 65, 70, 75 years old that were going to help them with balance and functional ability and independent living. And if we're going to help people live really well to 90, 95, 100 years old, we have to have a fitness regimen for that. And so that really just kind of became my passion and where my career went.
Nice. So do you have a clients that in their 60s and they want to lose weight? They want to lose weight.
Yes, absolutely. Especially more so women than men, but even some of the men want to lose weight, but women for sure. Women, they go through menopause and they come out the other side, and all of a sudden they're 10, 20 pounds heavier than they've ever been. And so yes, women in their upper 50s, 60s, even 70s, boy, if I could lose 20, 25 pounds, that would sure be nice. The nice thing is that's often not their first goal anymore. It might have been their first primary goal in their 30s and 40s, but now in their 60s and 70s, their first goal is, I need to be able to move better so I can do things, right? I need to be more fit so I can do all the things I want to do. Oh, by the way, if I could lose some weight, that would sure be a nice bonus.
Yeah. And is it harder for them to lose weight or to get fit than for the 60 years old than for like 30s or 40s people? Is it like big difference?
Yes. It's not a big difference, but it's a little bit harder. Yes. I would say every decade it gets a little bit harder. So it's a little bit harder to lose weight in your 40s than it was in your 20s. It's a little bit harder in your 50s than it was in your 30s and 40s. Every 10 years, our metabolism slows down just a little bit more. And so because of that, we have to put out a little bit more work to lose weight. We have to add more fitness. We have to be more strict on our nutrition and more careful with what we eat. So it gets a little bit more difficult. Is it impossible? No. But it's definitely better to really pay attention to your weight in your 30s and 40s than to just wait till you're 55 and all of a sudden you have 30 or 40 extra pounds. So the slow, inevitable creep of weight can start to have a compounding effect, right? All of a sudden we wake up at 62 years old and we're 50 pounds overweight. Well, people come to me and they're like, well, I'd like to lose 50 pounds in a year. I'm like, well, did you gain the 50 pounds in a year? Probably not, right? It took you 10 years to gain it. So it's probably going to take more than a year to lose it. It's going to be a slow and steady wins the race process, but we can start to take the weight back off.
Are you put them like on like sort of special eating, like nutritionists, or for them the special diet and including like a fitness sort of regime to have it?
Yeah, it depends on, it really depends on the person.
Yeah, and the mental health as well. Like, you know, because obviously some of the people as we're getting older, all of us, like our body is getting older, but mentally sometimes we still think that we are in our 20s or 30s.
That's right, sure.
You know, and it's just to have a sort of a balance, you know, how to, you know, just have a reality check basically for them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I would say for a lot of women, 55 and 60 years old, right, they think they're 45, and they forget that their hormones have changed. Their sleep patterns may have changed. So I always say weight loss is a multi-pronged approach. It's not, I think people way overestimate fitness. They think, oh, if I just start exercising or if I just start working out, I'll lose weight. Well, maybe not necessarily, because exercise might only be 25% of the whole picture, right? If you're chronically stressed,
yeah,
we know your cortisol levels are high. If your cortisol levels are high, your body is in fat storage mode and it will not release fat. I don't care how much you exercise. And so, in fact, exercise can increase your cortisol even more, right? You're stressed out, and now we're going to stress you more with exercise, right? And your body's going to say, well, the last thing I'm going to do is release fat because we're overly stressed, right? So stress is probably 25% of the equation. We have to be managing stress. Well, what's one of the number one ways to manage cortisol levels and stress? Well, it's sleep. So it's almost opposite, because people are like, well, I need to be more active. I got to get up at 5 in the morning and exercise. Well, but you really need to sleep, right? If you're only sleeping 5 or 6 hours, this exercise you're doing is probably undoing that, right? So sleep is huge. Nutrition, of course, is huge. Some people have their nutrition dialed in really well. They're eating really well. There's not much we can even change on that. And so we have to improve your sleep and your stress management, and we have to add exercise. But it's really a combination of all of those things. Plus, medications can be a big factor, right? If people are on 1 or 2 or 3 medications, those can have a big impact on weight as well. So I always tell people it's really a holistic approach. It's not just, oh, I started an exercise program, therefore I'm going to magically lose weight. Or, oh, I started improving how I eat, I'm going to magically lose weight. Not necessarily. You really need to be doing all of it.
Because I can actually relate to that as well. Like, I'm physically active. My job is standing all day long on my feet, basically. And I like to run. I run for 8 to 10 kilometers, not sort of persistency, like, you know, in every day, but how it comes depends. But sometimes you feel that your weight, it just not dropping, is still the same, and you think, what I'm doing wrong? My food is good. I'm eating all the fish and all the proteins and all my vegetables, and I have everything what I need, but I'm still stuck and I can't move forward. And you have these all questions, you know, that you don't have the answers to. And you think, how can you move forward? So what would you suggest for people basically that even over 50, they want to lose weight? They like some of them even like obese people and all that, how to start, where to begin?
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the biggest things is to focus on the really long term, right? And so the problem is people think, oh, I didn't lose 2 pounds this week.
Yeah.
And the reality is your goal should be to lose somewhere between a half a pound and a pound a week. And a half a pound a week is not very exciting, right? We're talking
Yeah.
2 pounds a month. But 2 pounds a month is a big change over the course of a year. It's 24 pounds down in a year. And so now a vacation is sort of an abnormal exception, right? We might gain 4 or 5 pounds, but for the most part, we're not gaining 25 pounds a year. So to lose 25 pounds in a year is a big shift. It's a big move. And so oftentimes people get frustrated because they don't lose 25 pounds in 25 days, right? They want to lose the weight and they want to lose it really fast.
Yeah, they want instant
And that's just not sustainable for most of us, because we can't go on that restrictive a program. And so I just like to break the math down for people. A pound of fat, which is really what you want to lose. You don't want to lose muscle, and losing water weight is really just fooling yourself, right? I mean, we can lose water weight and drop 3 pounds in 3 days, and then we rehydrate and we're back up 3 pounds. So a pound of fat is 3,500 calories. Well, for most people, trying to create a 3,500 caloric change is going to take 10 to 12 days. They're not going to be able to do that in 5 days. If you did it in 5 days, it's 700 calories a day. That's really difficult to do even through a very restrictive diet to reduce 700 calories. Now you can do it, and guess what happens? By the end of 10 days of that diet, you can't do it anymore, right? And so you rebound and you go the other direction, you lose a couple pounds, and pretty quickly you have to splurge because it's too difficult, it's too restrictive. And so I think a more realistic goal is 300 to 400 calories a day. And you can do that through exercise and nutrition, right? And so now you're looking at a plan where you're going to be losing about a pound every 10 days or so, which is not that exciting, right? It's not that exciting to lose 2 pounds, 3 pounds a month, but that really is a more sustainable goal. It's a more doable goal. It's a less painful goal. It's not as aggressive, but it's much more sustainable. And so when we look at that over the course of 1, 2, 3 years, now we start to look at, you're getting on a healthier trajectory for the rest of your life, right? And so if a year from now you can say, well, gee, I'm 20 pounds lighter than I was last year, that's a great place to be. The problem is we humans like instant gratification, right? We want someone to solve our weight problem in 20 days or less. And those are rarely, if ever, healthy options, and they're rarely, if ever, successful options. What we see is people can go on crash diets, crazy supplements, crazy exercise plans, and they can lose weight fast. But you know what happens? About 98% of the time, they gain all that weight back, often 4 more pounds on top of it. So it's not a great short-term success plan. So I tell people slow and steady. You know, the tortoise, after all, did win the race. So slow and steady is the way to go.
Amazing. Do you have any like 90-year-old clients?
We do. And you know, interestingly enough, once you get above about the age of 85, we really don't focus on weight loss at all anymore. In fact, typically over the age of 85, we want people to keep their weight, maintain their weight. We don't want them to be losing weight, because when that happens, we start to see a loss in bone density, a loss in muscle density. So even if they're 20, 30, 40 pounds overweight, that's not our primary focus. Our primary focus in the over 85 is movement, functional strength, the ability to do activities of daily living. And oftentimes we actually see having 30 or 40 extra pounds is protective. It means they have a little bit more cushion if they do fall. It means they're not as frail, they're not as, their bones are not as osteoporotic oftentimes. And so we're less concerned. We're actually more concerned about women in their 90s that are underweight or are low weight, because we know they're at greater risk for fractures. They're at greater risk for just functional abilities. I'm not saying you need to go gain weight if you're in your 90s, but we're definitely less weight loss focused with people over the age of 85.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much. So before we're going to wrap up today, is there anything else you would like to say to the listeners on your mind?
You know, the thing I always try to encourage people with is weight loss is such a long-term goal for most people. Even if you have 10 pounds to lose, that can take anywhere from 10 weeks to 25 weeks. The problem is we only have today, right? And so I can't fix what I did yesterday. I can't, oh man, I didn't really eat well, you know, a week ago. All I have is today. And so I have to have a plan for how am I going to be more physically active? How am I going to be more productive with moving my body? And how am I going to be more productive with the foods I put in my body? How am I going to be more mindful about my eating? And then I think a big one that we miss when we think about weight loss is how am I managing my stress, my sleep, and my rest? Because those are so critical for losing weight. And so we can only do those things one day at a time. But over time, taking the same healthy habits day after day after day has a positive accumulative effect, right? So to put it the opposite, right? If you spend the next 60 days sitting on the couch eating ice cream every single day, it has an accumulative effect, right? You rolled your eyes like, well, how could that be a good thing? We know that's probably not a good thing. So what can you be doing day after day after day that 100 days from now will have an accumulative effect in the positive direction you want?
Right. True. Well, good one. Well, thank you so much. And can you tell to the listeners where can they find you?
Yeah, there's lots of places they can find us. The two main would be Functional Aging Institute. You can see the logo over my shoulder. So functionalaginginstitute.com. And then the other one would be functionalfitnesssolution.com. So if you're brand new to exercise, functionalfitnesssolution.com would be a great place to start.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you. To the listeners, thank you for watching, and I see you in the next episode. And we wrap. Thank you so much. I want to just ask you one question. So the stress level, is that really like has a massive input in the weight loss?
Massive. Yeah, massive. We see it, I would say, more so often in women.
Great.
Especially from age 40 to 60 is where women tend to be the most stressed, right? So in the 40s, they often tend to have teenagers they're raising, and they're going through sort of life changes of their kids are getting older, and maybe some of them are leaving the house. And then late 40s, early 50s, we have the stress of menopause. And so we see oftentimes women are tired, right? They complain they're fatigued, and they're like, well, I'm trying to work out, but I'm so tired. It's like, well, this isn't going to work. If you're tired and you're trying to exercise, you're compounding the stress hormones. You're never going to lose weight. And so we have to get your fatigue under control. We have to get your stress under control. And if women aren't managing that, oftentimes what we find is their cortisol levels are so high, their body will not release fat. Doesn't matter how much you exercise, doesn't matter how little you eat. And they get super frustrated, right? And so then they do things
That's even more frustrating.
right. So then they do things extreme, like they don't eat at all, right? Which then of course they'll lose some weight, but as soon as they resume eating, they gain it right back, right? And so then they feel like I can't eat anything. It's like, no, we need to get you de-stressed, rested more, sleeping better. And of course, especially in the height of about 2 years of the menopause change, sleep is a big challenge, right? Because they could be having hot flashes at night, night sweats, you know, insomnia, a variety of things that are wreaking havoc on their sleep. And so doing more things like yoga and Pilates and less stressful exercise and more sort of mind, body, soul replenishing is really helpful. But also being honest with the fact that, especially when you're going through menopause, might be a time where the only goal is to not gain weight, right? You should not be thinking, oh, I need to lose 20 pounds. Like your goal should be to get through menopause not gaining weight, which is very common. Women will gain anywhere from 5 to 10 pounds of fat, and they store it all at their belly because their hormones are shifting. And so the stress level, I think, is huge in weight loss, and people underestimate it. They just think it's diet and exercise, right? And it's like, it's not just those things. There are other factors involved for sure.
Oh my God. This is like when you say, like, you know, not de-stress, it's like, it stresses you out even more because you think, right, now I'm stressed and I can't lose it.
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the inability to lose weight is stressful, right?
Yeah, exactly. You kind of, because it's constantly on your mind, and if you really dedicate, like if you're trying hard, so it's constantly you're working on it. You're thinking what you're eating,
right?
What, you know, and even how often you're eating, and you think like, oh, should I eat now? Am I gonna drag it a little bit longer? So am I gonna reduce it? So like, or I'm gonna eat this hour, that hour, and kind of get into regime. So it's constantly on your mind. So really stressful. And if they say like you have to de-stress, so it even stresses you more.
Right, I know. Yeah. As soon as somebody is struggling with weight loss and they're stressed about it, and you tell them, well, you really need to de-stress, that doesn't make them happy. But but I think you have to start with that. And I always try to tell people, like, if you're starting a fitness program thinking it's going to be the magic snap your fingers lose weight, you're making a mistake right out of the gate. It's much more holistic than that, right? It's your nutrition, it's your sleep, it's your hydration, it's how much alcohol do you consume, it's how many medications are you on. There's a variety of factors before you even set foot in the gym that play a huge role and are really key.
So you said in 1 pound, how many calories is 3,000?
3,500 calories to burn 1 pound of fat. So when we store fat, it's 3,500 calories. So it's a huge amount of calories to burn off a pound of fat.
So basically for a man, it's more than a daily allowance, isn't it?
Yeah. So right. That's why the programs where you lose, like, 10 pounds in 10 days, almost always what you're doing is you've changed your nutrition in some way that your body flushes water out, right? And so you basically, like, if you stop consuming carbohydrate, for example, your body will chuck about 4 to 5 pounds of water. Well, guess what happens? As soon as you eat the carbohydrate back, your body restores the water, right? So you just gain the water weight back. So I can give you a program to lose 10 pounds in 10 days, but it's not a real 10-pound loss, right? It's maybe 3 to 4 pounds of fat. It's 6 pounds of water. The problem is when you start eating again, oftentimes you'll gain 12 pounds back, right? So it just goes like this, which is not a good strategy. And so long term, you have to, that's why most programs say 1 pound a week, because 3,500 calories over 7 days, that's 500 calories a day, right? So here's the challenge. People think, oh, well, I went to the gym and I exercised 500 calories, so I'm good. Mm-hmm. You're not doing the math, right? People miss it, right? What if you had stayed home and taken a nap for that hour? You still would have burned 200 calories, right? So we overestimate exercise, right? Like, just for me to stay alive sitting here talking to you, I'm probably burning about 200 calories an hour, right? I'm not physically active. I'm not doing anything other than talking, right? So if I hopped on the treadmill and ran for this hour, I might burn 600 calories. So that's only 400 more than if I did nothing. Well, keep in mind, the average person exercising burns about 350 to 400 calories in an hour. They're not fit enough to burn 600. So they burn 350 to 400 in an hour. They would have burned 150 to 200 just at home doing essentially nothing, right? Just household tasks, or, opening the mail, or just, having dinner. So we pat ourselves on the back. We're like, oh, I exercised 400 calories. I can have that cookie at dinner tonight. It's like, no, wait a minute. Wait. You would have burned 200 calories doing nothing. So we way overestimate exercise. We can't, as humans, just all of a sudden crank up our physical activity, right? So if I want to burn 1,000 calories, that's about the equivalent of 10 miles worth of activity. Well, how many of us are walking 10 miles a day or running 10 miles a day? I mean, it's a lot of activity to get up to 10,000 calories. And so, again, we just way overestimate exercise. We think, oh, I'm exercising 5 days a week. It's like, that's 200 to 300 calories a day more, right? You add that up over the course of 5 days. So it's 12 to 1500 calories more than what you used to be doing. It's still only half a pound of fat. And the problem with exercise is it's very easy to eat that back, right? It's very easy to be hungrier. It's very easy to say, oh, well, I worked out today, so I can have an extra piece of whatever, even healthy food, right? It's like, oh, well, I can have a little more because I worked out today, or okay, I'll have that chocolate. And it takes seconds to eat 200 calories, right? Seconds, right? It's just, so it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
It is definitely. Well, thank you so much. It was
Yeah, thank you for having me. When you get closer to launch dates and everything, make sure I have all the promo materials.
Yes, I will send it to you definitely. Well,
All right,
thank
very
you
good.
so much and have a good day.
All right, you too. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.